Welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Dave Riedel. I write for the Chicago Reader. My pronouns are he, him. I am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I think that's everything. Next.
My name is Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living. My pronouns are he, him.
And my name is Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I, too, am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I'm a member of Gallica, the Society of LGBTQ Entertainment Critics. And Evan is saluting, as he does every week, because he thinks it sounds like a Star Trek name. Thank you!
Woo! And I thought I'd woo.
I love a good woo.
Woo, baby. So, this week on the show, we are talking about 3 movies, which we will get to in a moment. But before we do that, we wanted to mention that over on Ye Old Patreon, we are talking about the movie Searching, because it is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And we did a poll of movies that fall into that realm, category, whatever you want to call it. And our patrons chose Searching, starring John Cho and Deborah Messing. And it's a great conversation. I had never seen it before. And we had a lot of fun talking about it. So there you have it. Here we go for the regular show. Strange rhyme I decided to do there. Anyway, we are talking about 3 movies. We're talking about the Little Mermaid. We are talking about the new Shudder movie, Influencer. Got a particular set of skills, I guess. I don't know. And we are talking about the rom-com Days of Daisy. So without further ado, Megan, why don't you fill us in on Ye Old Little Mermaid? That's actually what it's called. Ye Old Little Mermaid.
Ye new Little Mermaid.
Right.
That's right. Not
live
ye
action.
old.
Ye live action Little Mermaid.
That's right. New. But not improved because, new and improved. Anyway, so Little Mermaid, the 1989 Disney animated version, is one of my favorite Disney films. It's one I've always loved, but as I've gotten older, I have learned to love it more. I appreciate it more. I sing the songs all the time. I say, Dave, why are you laughing?
I thought you were going to say, as I got older, I've decided it's a piece of shit. Really?
No.
That'd be surprising considering we
No.
talked about it on a Patreon, and I don't remember Megan
Exactly.
saying that.
I know. It's just, for some reason, the way you made, and the more as I've gotten older, I've just decided it's bullshit. Fuck this
It's
movie.
terrible.
But no, that's not what you were going to say.
No, you're right. We have talked about it in a Patreon, and I gushed about it then, and I love it because I love Jodie Benson as Ariel. I love Pat Carroll as Ursula. I absolutely love Poor Unfortunate Souls, which I've sung in karaoke. I love A Part of Your World, which is the greatest I Want song of all time. I adore it. And I love that there is very much a trans allegory happening throughout the film. And I'm here for it. I'm here for all of it. And I'm here for Ursula being based on Drag Queen Divine. And Howard Ashman's gorgeous songs. I love it. I adore it. So I have not been the biggest fan of the Disney live action remakes. I do really like Jungle Book, and that's probably the one I like the best. Maleficent I love too, but that's not actually a remake since it's a retelling of Maleficent's story, not actually a remake or live action retelling of Sleeping Beauty. But I digress. But so I was curious, and I was cautiously optimistic how this was going to be. And I have to say, Halle Bailey is a star. She is amazing. Her voice is stunning. She is the best part of this film. She not only nails all of the vocals impeccably, I got chills every time she sang. She's so good. She has so much yearning and just joy kind of just oozing out of her in this performance. But she really, really is such a magnetic and charismatic presence that thank God she is in this film, because without her, I think this would just be really ho-hum. And that's such an unfortunate thing to say about a film I adore, or a story I adore, original film I adore. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of chatter before this came out that the film didn't really look great. Like there was really dark lighting and everything looked kind of murky. And I always want to reserve my judgment for the visuals of a film because, there's still possibly finessing and there's still things happening in post-production and all of that. And the film definitely is very vibrant and looks very multicolored in a great way. And I will say that I think the first part of the movie, I think the first like half hour, 45 minutes or so are really interesting. There's some good camera work. It looks very kinetic and fluid as you would hope it would under the water. And Ariel's really compelling because of Halle Bailey. But yeah, then, the movie focuses more on Eric and Eric's problems. And I have defended Eric as a prince in the past, that he's not boring. But in this, yeah, he kind of is. I will say it's kind of nice that this movie fleshes out their relationship a bit more, Ariel and Eric's. And they have a lot in common. Like he really yearns to be on the sea and exploring new places and traveling. But his mother, the queen, is like, no, you have responsibilities here. And he almost dies in the shipwreck, which Ariel saves him from, very similar to the animated film. And she's like, no, you can't, you can't leave. And he's also an adopted kid. And so she's very protective of him and all that. But yeah, and he sings a song and it's fine. And that's the thing too. There's some new songs.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's whatever. And then, because Howard Ashman came back to do these new songs with Lin-Manuel Miranda. And then there's this god-awful rap song that Awkwafina and Daveed Diggs, I love Daveed Diggs, but Awkwafina and him do, and it's terrible. It's so bad. It's awful. Ugh. It's just not good. But yeah, so the movie kind of peters out after a while. And then Ursula is such a great character, such a captivating, fascinating villain. And I like Melissa McCarthy a lot. I really do. And she's, I think, trying very hard. And her voice is really good. And I had heard years ago that she could sing, but I'd never actually heard her. And she's very good doing Poor Unfortunate Souls. The problem is she looks dead in the eyes. There's like no real emotion in her eyes. Yeah, it's weird. It's like this, she's doing great things with her voice. Like when you hear her speaking voice, it's not her normal voice. She makes it very low and like a low register, and it's great. But like her facial expressions are just like non-existent. It's so weird. So there's like no charisma, there's no chutzpah, there's no spark, there's no real, nothing that I was getting from this performance, sadly. So it was very disappointing. But Halle Bailey is amazing. If you go see it, you will enjoy Halle Bailey and her singing. And, some people probably will enjoy this much more than I did. I mean, I didn't dislike it. It was exciting to see these songs and hear these songs on the big screen and see this underwater world. Mm-hmm. But it's just okay.
Underwater World is the unreleased sequel to Waterworld.
Which I don't hate. I mean, it's not great. It's not good.
I don't hate it either. There's a lot of things that don't make sense, like how those cigarettes survived.
Oh my God. Yeah, no. A lot doesn't make sense, but it's not the worst thing I've ever seen.
Right.
Ooh, I never would have thought that we would end up talking about Waterworld in reference to the new Little Mermaid. So kudos for taking us there.
Right?
I do what I can, ladies and gents.
Nice job, Dave.
Thank you.
But yeah, Halle Bailey, amazing.
Okay. All right. Well, you haven't spoiler pieced me into wanting to see it, so well.
No, but I forgot to say, the thing that's been really beautiful to see well before the release are all of the videos of little black girls who are so excited to see a black mermaid. And so, for nothing else, representation matters. Representation is important. And, poor Halle Bailey has been getting like all kinds of like nonsense threats and bullshit. And it's like it's a mermaid. It's a fantasy creature. Who the fuck cares? But
mermaids don't exist, people. Take it fucking
right? It's so stupid. But anyway, so I love that for representation and I love it for her. And I hope Halle Bailey just blows up even more because she deserves it.
Okay. Well, then from that, we go to it's another island setting. I don't know. This is,
It is.
Yeah.
It is an exotic location.
Exotic location influencer, which is a Shudder thriller / horror movie. And here's your one sentencer. While struggling on a solo backpacking trip in Thailand, social media influencer Madison meets CW. Is her name CW? Who travels with ease and shows her a more uninhibited way of living, but CW's interest in her takes a darker turn because she has a particular set of skills. Sorry.
Yeah, and those.
Actually, she
And
does
those-
have a particular set of
Yeah.
skills.
Yeah, and that's getting people to trust her and then drugging them and then leaving them on a deserted island for dead and just for funsies and stealing their identities and their money and using that to finance her own future vacations and additional stalking of new people that she plans to then take to the island and then leave for dead.
Yeah, so I guess she doesn't actually kill anybody. Well, she does kill someone in this, or at least that I saw. I should tell you all. So this movie's about 90 minutes long, and I watched an hour of it because I was didn't really want to watch it, and then my week got busy. There was something you guys know for some reason that I don't even understand. Like lately, I've just been like, I don't want to watch horror movies. I don't know. You know what it is? I'm not going to blame anything, but I saw a whole bunch of horror movies on Halloween somewhere that I didn't particularly enjoy because it wasn't my genre. And ever since then, I've been a little bit of a non-horror trip. So anyway, I finally got around to watching this, and it's I don't know if amazing's the right word, but from the word go, it's really captivating. I will say that. So I left off when we have, I guess, what we would call our second victim. But I don't know how it ends, so I don't know what goes on here. So why one of you should take over and describe what happens here. You, Evan, mentioned that you've got CW who's ripping off these people's identities and leaving them for dead in an island.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of feel like she's gotten to a place, she being the person doing the ripping off and abandoning, she's gotten to a place where she's a little bit too comfortable because like she really fucks up with like
she
the
gets
next
cocky.
one.
She gets real cocky.
Yeah.
And sloppy.
Yes.
Yeah, she gets cocky and then sloppy and then has to try and do a whole lot of cleanup. And it does not work out well.
Mm-mm.
What I like about this movie, one of the things I like about it is that we meet Madison right away, and Madison seems to have, main character energy. Like
Marion Crane.
Yeah, like
You're
we're
not
we're
the main
watching,
character.
Yeah, we're watching her thinking like, okay, Madison is going to meet CW, and then, CW will probably, this will turn into, single white influencer, and, she'll just be obsessed with her, and then it'll be creepy. But it's like the opening of the film is them just meeting each other, getting to know each other. Then Madison's passport gets stolen, so she has to stick around in Thailand, and then she's hanging out with CW, and then they and they're on this remote island, and they're drinking and having fun, and CW makes a joke like, or Madison makes a joke like, oh, you could have just brought me out here to murder me, and CW is like, no, haha, I didn't bring here to murder you, I brought you here to leave you for dead. And then she
tells her exactly how she's going to do it.
She tells her the exact plan, and then, dishes her there, basically drugs her, and while she's, asleep, leaves her for dead on the island. And then the next part of the film is just CW meeting new people and trying to do this. She meets this other woman named Jennifer, who's also an influencer, but it's more on the like health and wellness kind of kick of being an influencer, and she moves into Madison's house and is hanging out there, and then Madison's like stalker ex-boyfriend shows up, and then she has to deal with Jessica and the stalker boyfriend, and is like trying to juggle those two and keep this all under control. And Dave, you said you got to the point where she stuffed Jessica in a suitcase.
Yeah, that's where I left off. She throats Jessica with a stiletto heel, which thankfully happens off camera. And then you see her zipping Jessica up into a suitcase, which, I mean, I'm kind of surprised that she fit in that. But, hey, you can fold a person up pretty neatly, as it turns out. Not that I'm getting any ideas.
When you don't care about broken bones, yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so the last thing I saw was that CW had been tagged in a photo that Ryan, the ex-boyfriend, put up. Well, CW hadn't been tagged. Jessica had been tagged, and you can see CW in the background in the photo. And then it's breakfast time, and CW has pretended that she's made breakfast for the three of them. There's 2 empty plates, which I was like, oh, good touch, you. You're not, you've regained your kill mojo, I guess. But that's where I left off is right when Ryan reaches for his coffee and then she, CW starts to smirk and I'm like, oh, did she just drug all of the drinks on the table to make sure?
Not quite, but she does drug him later. They go out. She's like, let's go have a fun day. And then they go out and she drugs him while they're out drinking and then makes it is messed up. It's totally messed up.
It's a disturbing scene.
It's so disturbing. So she takes him back to the house, like strips him naked, takes like a condom and like opens it and throws it away and climbs on top of him and like takes photos of it and like makes him think that they slept together. So then he's feeling all weird and is supposed to leave the next day. And then when he's kind of on the boat getting ready to leave, he starts kind of like piecing some of these things together that all of this doesn't add up. So he goes back to investigate what's going on. And then he starts to put some of the pieces together that, okay, this is not what it seems. And CW has been, I have to give Shauna credit for this. She called it a medium fake. She was creating medium fakes of pretending to be Madison and Madison's social media. And he figures it out because he sees the shadow of her birthmark in one of the videos.
Right.
So then he tries to attack her and tie her up, but she gets the upper hand on him in many different ways, including you're a gross stalker and you have a woman tied up that you've beaten. Who do you think they're going to believe when we go sort this all out?
Yeah, because he threatens to call the cops. He's like, I'm going to call the cops. And she's like, who are they going to believe when they show up?
Yep. So she ends up getting free and killing him. Oh. She drowns him. It is pretty messed up.
Yeah, she slices his throat and drowns him.
And drowns him. And then she throws his body and Jessica's body on the boat to take to the island to ditch them there. And guess what? When she gets there, Madison's not dead.
Madison's alive. Well, I knew Madison was going to be alive.
But first, before that, what I love is that she knows Madison is still alive because she can see that Madison has stuff laid out to catch rainwater or the condensation from water to survive drinking. And she's like, oh, fuck, like in her face. And then she grabs like a paddle to use as a weapon. And we see her go through the island, which I think is such a nice touch.
Yeah.
Real quick, one thing I noticed when they first get to the island and Madison is like looking at the log they're going to be sitting on, is it me or somebody carved notches into it?
They did. Yeah.
Okay.
They carved notches for the days they've been there. And I was just about to say, when CW gets back to the island, there's a bunch more notches carved into that log. And so she sees it. That's the other thing she sees and goes, oh shit.
Oh, wow. Well, I know this is spoiler piece, but do we want to spoil the ending? I mean, I don't know. Or do you want?
Why not?
Because like it was so. Yeah. I was having so much fun with it, and then we had to do the goddamn show. I was gonna go finish it after the show was over.
I think that the ending, it's fairly predictable that she's gonna be alive, so I don't think that's really a shocker. But it's still quite satisfying when CW is kind of trying to stalk her through the jungle. And then Madison corners her on this cliff and whacks her over the head and like beats her down and then leaves her on the island for dead.
Oh, okay. See, now I'm kind of disappointed because it would have been great if CW did get away with it.
Well, it's funny because CW doesn't exactly seem pissed about being left on the island. She's kind of like, we're left with kind of a moment where she's kind of like smirking, where she's like, okay, well played. But somehow I'm going to figure my way off this fucking island.
Yeah. That does seem like it would be her. She's like, a worthy opponent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not entirely convinced she's going to die on that island.
Yeah, me neither. But I mean, Madison, that was really great that she survived and proved herself more resourceful. And I like that they kind of teased that in that moment where she was talking about being a Girl Scout and going camping and kind of knowing survivalist elements.
Oh, wow. I guess CW is not as like smart as she thinks she is, because I remember like there's a whole point that it's not a long story, but Madison's like, yeah, we was a Girl Scout and we would go camping and we would tell the scary stories, and which leads CW to tell her story about, well, this is what I plan to do to you, bitch.
But that's the thing. Yeah. As soon as somebody if I was CW, as soon as somebody told me they were a Girl Scout, Eagle Scout, Boy Scout, anything like that and had gone camping, I'd be like, abort mission. Like, I'd be like, nope, they're surviving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have a friend who was an Eagle Scout, and he was staying with me not too long ago for a couple of nights. And in the morning, he was like because he's a good guest, he was taking the sheets off the bed and he was like folding the fitted sheet, and he folded it perfectly in one go.
Oh my God.
I was like,
I hate this person. I'm sure they're the nicest person, but I hate them.
He taught me how to do it. It's amazing.
That's impressive because I've watched videos and I still can't do it. Every time I watch the video, I'm like, wait, how is this person doing it? I'm not doing it. I swear I'm following the same steps.
Yeah.
Listen, I just roll it into a giant ball and it's fine. I'm done with this.
You can do that, but I mean, Jesus.
I know. I'm like, I'm a monster.
What I think is really interesting about what I've seen of the movie so far is when CW, now Jessica does end up getting dispatched, but CW from the moment Jessica from the moment she meets CW is kind of like, I'm
She's
not sure
suspicious.
about you.
Yes. I like that.
You know? And it doesn't, unfortunately for Jessica, she doesn't realize, she either thinks that she's smarter than CW or doesn't realize CW is a psycho because she does end up with the stiletto heel in the throat and zipped into, what do we say, a suitcase.
Yes.
So,
but I did like that, she has this presumption, CW has this presumption that she's dealing with these airheads who, they're these vapid, bimbo loser kind of people that she can feel superior to. And it turns out that both of them ended up being much smarter than she expected. I mean, even though Jessica ends up dying, she still figures out that CW is definitely got some kind of game going on and is not being forthright about what's going on and has the instinct to get the fuck out of there, even though CW ruins that opportunity.
Yeah. And also interesting, CW is not the greatest thinker on her feet, at least not what I've seen, because she is stunned when Ryan shows up at that house.
Yeah, she's blindsided. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Ryan is a total creep. So maybe you...
You find out in a later scene, Dave, that he was stalking Madison, and he had he was. Yeah, he had like info on her accounts, and that's how he was able to track all the expenses and things to this house and figure out.
Yeah, he had her tagged. It was gross.
Yeah,
I left before that because he says, I'm paying for this, so I figured because they worked together and they were dating that he must have just been paying for that as like a business expense or something.
Totally.
But I guess not.
No, he's a creeper.
Okay.
Well, also Madison breaks up with him.
She does.
And he still shows up. And it's not like I could almost understand him showing up if she kind of fell off the face of the earth, but it hasn't really been that long at that point. So it's
weeks.
Like, yeah, but I mean, she was staying there 2 weeks, so it's still not very long. I don't know. I just found it very, he's a creeper all around.
Yeah, there's also the fact that she's still leaving posts. Now, they are medium fakes, as Shauna said, but
that's true.
she's making posts, She's, as far as Ryan knows, she's just living her life, but in Thailand instead of, England. So, I guess California, because Ryan is not American, but I guess the idea is she's from California, they're living in California, whatever, doesn't matter. They're together somewhere. So, is there anything else you want to say about Influencer before we move on?
Well, I haven't even shared if I liked the film or not.
Oh. Well, I haven't seen it, so it doesn't really matter whether you like it. I mean,
it doesn't matter what I think. Thanks.
No. So what did you?
I'm gonna go to bed then.
That is a joke. I didn't mean that.
I know. I'm teasing.
What did you think?
I liked it. I thought this was really interesting, and I very much like the focus. I like the change in the narrative. It's very much Barbarian, although I think if you've seen Barbarian, for me the first storyline works much better than the second. But it's very much like, we're not actually following the people we think we're following. Yeah. And I very much like that. I like that we follow CW, the villain. And I agree with you, Evan. I also like that CW assumes that these creators on Instagram and TikTok assumes that they're vapid, and they're not. And I don't know why you would ever assume that. It's a job, just like any other. You're doing your own filming. You're doing a lot of editing. You may have an editor, but you're still doing a lot of editing. You're doing writing, public speaking. Like, I don't know why people don't understand that it is a job. It is. But anyway, So the one thing I did not like about the film, and I like the ending too, although Dave, I kind of was like you. I was like, oh, I kind of want her to get away with it. But who knows? She's not dead, so she still could possibly get away. The one thing that I was not the biggest fan of is I was not the biggest fan of the actor who plays CW. I felt she was very stiff in certain ways, and I didn't feel she was very emotive or very expressive. So I feel like that is an opportunity for a really complex performance. And for me, it kind of felt surface level. But other than that, I liked the film.
That's good. I can kind of see what you mean about the performance. I kind of was just, I don't know, for some reason in my head, I think I kind of just associated some of those traits with the character as opposed to just the acting.
That's fair. And maybe it is that character and not the performance, you know?
Maybe.
Yeah. But I really enjoyed this too. It really surprised me. And I've seen a fair number of horror movies that are like kind of this ilk, that are like about technology and social media and kind of, people of the like teenage to early 20s, and this really surprised me in a way that it had more going on than just being kind of like a straight thriller. It had more substance to it. And
yes.
kind of like how CW is surprised that Jessica and Madison have more substance to them. I was pleasantly surprised that this movie had more substance to it. And also, this same director, Curtis David Harder, I liked his movie Spiral that he did a few years ago, and we reviewed on the show. So I was excited to see another movie from him.
Okay. Well, God damn it. Now I got to stay up late and finish this fucking
thing.
Thanks, you two.
Yeah, it's definitely clever. I like it.
Okay. Well, now is it safe to move on?
No. Yes.
Okay.
I'm just messing with you
on
now.
the islands, Dave.
Yeah. You should leave me on the island.
Oh no.
Yeah. It's like the reverse Survivor. So, okay, our last movie is Days of Daisy. This is about Daisy, who's 39 years old. She's a librarian. She's a very sweet, caring person. She really wants to have a child, and she meets Jack, who's a creative man of dreams, and he doesn't want to have a baby. But that's not really what it's about. That's kind of what it's about, but there's more to it than that. This is, I think it's safe to say this is a fairly indie movie. This is directed by Alexander Jeffrey, written by Jeffrey and Paul Peterson, and stars lots of people, including, I don't know how to pronounce her first name. Is it Jency? Jency Griffin Hogan, who plays Daisy, and lots of other people that you've probably seen in other indie movies, because I have. But anyway, that's basically that. What do we think? Who wants to start with Days of Daisy? This is kind of an interesting movie that has some very indie things going on with it, including some of the production. But that's to be discussed in a moment.
I want to hear Megan. Let's start with you, because want to end up at the end of the conversation again where we're like, wait, we should hear what Megan thinks about this.
Yeah, good point. You know what it was? I just had a moment there where I just left my body. I'm sorry. So
no, it's okay. I just like teasing you. I feel bad starting because I did not like this at all.
Okay. Well, I didn't love it. I'll tell you that.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I know Dave, you and I had talked before that I was really interested to see this because it sounded like a really intriguing premise. And, a woman who's 39 on the brink of 40, feeling her, her sense of mortality and thinking about fertility, and then, falling for someone who doesn't want kids. Those are really serious issues and could have been really interesting to delve into. So I very much wanted to see this. And I always love supporting indie, especially super indie films. And so that's why I feel bad even talking about this movie, because I'm like, I did not like any of it. Like any of it. I didn't like the acting from anyone. I didn't like the writing. I didn't like the score. I didn't like the cinematography. There's literally nothing I liked. And I feel so bad saying that because I know this is such a small production and probably very much a labor of love. And the one thing I can say is that I do think it's really interesting to talk about fertility on screen because it's not something that's discussed enough in films, because we still have a dearth of women-led films. And that's why I find it really interesting that this is directed by a man and also written by men, even though it is the lead actress's story. But the director also incorporated some of his own life into it. Like when he was a kid, he moved from like Canada to the South and he felt like an outcast. So that's why there's like the art school kids kind of not getting the funding the way the sports teams do. So that's why there's that storyline. But the storyline, I believe, about the fertility, I believe that is Jency. What is her last name?
Hogan.
Oh my God. Thank you. I was like, Griffin I just I had just read it too. I believe that's her story, or based on her real life. But yeah, and I find that interesting about what happens when you do meet someone who you're extremely compatible with, that you really, really care about, but they don't want children and you do, or you don't want children and they do. And that's not something you can compromise on. Like you
Right.
can't have half a kid, either you have kids or you don't. And so, yeah, so I like that that's the topic. I like that this film is dealing with that. But for me, nothing felt really authentic. And that's even though this is clearly based on real stories, but yeah, it didn't work for me on any level. And I do like that there's talk of endometriosis, because that is something that happens to so many people. Yeah, and I like that, but still, I don't know. Yeah, just did not work for me, unfortunately.
Ooh. Oh boy.
I know. I'm sorry.
Well, Evan, did anything about this movie? Did it work for you?
I did like this
Your
movie.
particular set of skills.
Yes. This movie is a real Shaggy kind of movie. It's like,
It is rough.
it's very rough around the edges, and I think I found that charming. It felt kind of cozy and charming, which is why I enjoyed it, but I can definitely recognize that it's a very Shaggy kind of movie. I liked Jency Griffin Hogan. I thought her performance was good. I found her charming and funny. I didn't like all of the acting or all of the characters. I thought the woman who played the mom was particularly
Oh
bad.
my God. She's so awful.
That
She's an awful character,
It was
and
terrible.
she's an awful
Yeah.
performance.
Yeah, awful character, because her mom is just laying into her about getting pregnant, and she's trying to set her up with people she's not interested in.
While she's dating someone else.
So that's awkward. But I really liked the dad, Bill Martin Williams. I thought that performance was also quite good and charming in the, dorky kind of way that dads can be. And I really cracked up when you found out that her dad is also the principal at the school that she works at. That moment of discovery, like, oh, her dad is the principal at the school, but like they have to try and pretend, even though everyone knows that they're father and daughter, but they still have to like keep up some semblance of that facade. But there was that moment later on when she's in front of the art students in her class, and she just says to her dad, she just calls him dad. I like that they didn't even acknowledge that. They didn't even have the like gasp or anyone going, "Oh wait, that's your dad," because everyone just knew.
It's kind of like that Michelle Williams movie, the Kelly Reichardt movie we saw a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh, showing
Yeah,
up.
exactly.
Where she
Yes.
works for her mother. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is very rough around the edges, and I will be the first to admit that, but I enjoyed it anyway.
Hmm.
I'm so glad you did. And I know I say that a lot, but I'm dead serious. Like, I'm really glad.
Well,
I wish I had.
There's just something. I found the lead charming. I found the dad charming. I found those performances quite good. I even kind of liked the guy who played the love
photographer?
interest.
Jack.
Yeah, I thought he was kind of nerdy and charming too. So I don't know. I found these people mostly charming, despite some very obvious weaknesses in the writing.
Yeah.
The dialogue not being fantastic, like
Ooh.
some really
Oh,
dumb
no.
running jokes, like the art student who calls everything ace in the hole, and they're always like making fun of him about it. That
And
not
then he
being
finally gets it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The student art, when we finally see the art show, it's all right.
I like
they're
the
just
Phoenix
students.
thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did like
Phoenix.
that.
Yeah, the Phoenix was kind of cool.
Hmm.
And like you, Megan, I do appreciate that it talks about fertility in a different way that is not typically talked about in movies, like the idea of endometriosis and that being difficult to diagnose, but also being a very significant barrier to entry and trying to have a kid. And So, you know, it's like the first part of the film is all about like she realizes her biological clock is ticking and her, you know, it opens with her at the gynecologist and him telling her, yeah, you got to get on that, Daisy. You got to figure this out soon. You don't have much, the window's closing. And then for her to
I found that guy insufferable, by the way. Just
because he
breaking in there.
was. It was awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also some doctors are that way.
Yeah.
That's true.
So then she breaks up with her boyfriend, who's kind of like, I don't know, I don't want to commit to anything. And he especially doesn't want to commit to kids. And then she, you know, just like, okay, well, now I need to find someone that definitely wants kids. And then realizing later, I don't think that's going to be in the cards for me. Then it makes sense for her then to say, okay, I really like Jack. I have the chemistry. So I don't know. I like that was the turn in the story. It wasn't just magically that, you know, she convinced Jack to have a kid. You know what I mean? It was
Right.
like life worked out in a way. She came to acceptance about that and then was like, okay, well, I had a good connection with Jack and kids are not in the cards for me, but I really like Jack. So let's see where that goes. And not the typical kind of like all tied up in a bow happy ending.
Totally, but it is still kind of, I know what you mean, but it's also still kind of like magically, oh, I can't have kids. Oh, well, I'll be with you now. Like at no point does she say like, maybe I'll adopt, you know, or explore
true.
that. And so I'm like, wait a minute, this just feels like it's too convenient of an ending. So like on the one hand, I totally agree with you, Evan. Like it's so nice to see kind of a different ending, you know, and a different resolution for that. But at the same time, I'm like, wait a minute, this just feels too convenient that this happened.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I fell somewhere between the two of you, although I lean more toward Megan's viewing of things. Like, I think I actually liked Jency Griffin Hogan's performance. I think the writing, generally speaking, is just kind of weak. I think that like the dialogue, some of it's just so atrocious, and I think even the best actors couldn't make that work. And the performances are highly variable. Like the two art kids they focus on the most, the kid with the long hair and then the blonde kid. I feel like the blonde kid, she's really good, and I feel like the kid with the long hair is terrible.
Agreed.
But they're always in scenes together, so you can't have the like
Right.
the joy of seeing her just be good on her own, you know? The joy. And I like the whole storyline, how the cheerleader who didn't like the art kids became an art kid, even though she still was kind of a dick.
That was kind of cute.
But the thing that really bugged me the most, and this will surprise neither of you, was the sound design. It made me lose my fucking mind. Like nothing takes me out of a movie more than when the sound doesn't match, you know, from shot to shot, scene to scene. And there are scenes when they are doing an over the shoulder and they're using the other actor's dialogue from a take where the microphone is nowhere near them, and then it cuts to their angle and they're using their microphone, and it's just like, it's so jarring. Like, and I just, you know, we're living in a digital age, people. You can do that shot and get that audio. Is it a performance issue, or is it you didn't do it? Is that the issue? I don't understand what the problem is. I know that with super low budget movies, like sometimes a location is like, you got to do this before we open in the morning. So that means, you know, you can come in, we'll open the door for you at 4 a.m. and you have to be out by 8 a.m. And you've got those 4 hours and maybe you didn't get it, and that's why. But then you know what you do? You loop it. So, oh boy. Yeah. So that, especially the scene with her second gynecologist, is the one where I noticed it the most. And I thought that doctor, I kind of feel like maybe she was doctor because she gave just like a good performance, I thought, as the cool doctor. You know, she's like, yeah, I know this is total drag, but let me explain to you what this means. You know, she had a much more human delivery and natural. She spoke like a person, as opposed to the previous doctor who just spoke like an old fucking creep from a different generation. God, that guy made me mad, which I know is part of the point. I understand part of the point of that scene was for him to be like a douche. I get it. But it doesn't change the fact that douche's, half monologue, like really lit a fire under her ass to get the whole child rearing thing into, so there's that.
But cis dudes really don't understand. They can't understand the pressure of fertility in that way. Whereas that's why I will say, I said there was nothing I liked initially. I do like that she gets a woman doctor later, because a cis woman can understand that.
Yeah.
Arguably.
And, if they wanted to, tackle fertility from the other angle, I mean, there are all kinds of problems that guys have with fertility too. But I mean, that's not this story. But those things do exist.
That's true. That's true.
Anyway, I just felt like it was kind of a mixed bag. I think that I also found it really strange that the character's last name was B-E-A, because I kept thinking that her name was something like, Bonowitz or something, and they just were calling her Ms. B.
That's what I thought.
But the character's last name is B-E-A in the credits, and I was like, oh, that's a really odd choice. Because, like...
That is an odd choice.
I don't know. Ms. Barker, how hard is it? Just like... Anyway.
Because I thought it was like a term of endearment. Like, oh, Miss B, like we're, shortening your name. Oh,
yeah.
No,
I mean, and that's just kind of that's the quality of the choices that the writers are making. It's just like, you're creating confusion where there needs to be none and where there can be none,
Right.
I mean, if you have trouble with like naming a character, just do what the guy who created, I can't remember what his name, Bill Lawrence, just do what Bill Lawrence does and just name every character after one of his friends. That's it. It's very, everybody on Scrubs is named after a person he knows. So, hey, there you go. Anyway, I really shit all over that. I didn't mean to come down on it so harshly. But you guys know how I feel about sound design, and that just makes me insane.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I was surprised there was an issue I had with sound design. Just one scene, though, an influencer, and I'm surprised you didn't mention it, Dave. And it was a scene you'd seen.
Oh, tell me.
Yeah.
Just tell me. Tell me which scene.
Oh, it was a scene where CW is sitting on a cliff, and it's like there's a sound issue. And if I noticed it, and I'm not an expert in audio design in any way, shape, or form, I was like, oh, I'm surprised Dave didn't notice it. But like I said, it's a very quick moment. Yeah, it's when she's talking to the ex-boyfriend, the stalker ex-boyfriend, and Jessica.
Oh, right. When she's sitting kind of
like,
down
oh,
the
we
hill
should
still.
go. Yeah, and she's like, we should get going. Yeah, or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'll take a look for
it's
it.
a minor point.
There was one
No, just enjoy the movie. Don't look for the flaw. Just enjoy the movie. It's a good one.
there was one other thing in Days of Daisy. There are lots of things that like show off its low budge thing. But another one that really stuck out to me was when Jack hands her his business card and the sides are all like tattered because they'd shot the scene a bunch of times, but they only had one card from props. So his business card just looks like shit. So because this is an art show opening that he's having and he's the artist. And let me tell you, no matter how broke ass you were, one of your artist friends would make you 50 new business cards. So
It's a good point. It's a good pickup.
Anyway, that's the kind of thing, it's like some of this stuff is, you know what? I don't make movies for a living, so I shouldn't say some of this stuff isn't that hard, but some of it's not that hard. Anyway,
well, clearly they needed someone doing quality control. Or maybe, they just assumed no one is going to be noticing that closely because they didn't know that someone like you, Dave, would be watching.
I don't know. It's because I like worked with those things,
Yeah.
like, when you work in TV for as long as fucking people take their business cards very seriously, not American Psycho.
I was just going to say American Psycho,
but pretty seriously. So anyway, that's how I feel about that. I feel like, I feel the same way you do, Megan, that the ending is tied up a little too neatly, but I also do appreciate the fact that, she comes to this place of acceptance about not having a child. Although at the same time, I do wonder why she doesn't consider fostering or adopting.
Right.
But I guess that's not really this movie's story, right? It focuses so heavily on the biology of it that maybe maybe that's just the story, I don't know. or if they're telling the leads, like incorporating her real life story into it, and that's what happened to her. Maybe that's why. I mean, who knows?
Maybe, but I feel like, again, I feel like this happens a lot where all it takes is like one line of dialogue that would, she could have been like, I thought about adoption, but no, not for me. Or like, I don't know, like something, or like maybe, she's like, who knows, maybe I'll want to adopt someday. There could have been a line of dialogue just acknowledging that. So, and like it's quick, it's easy. So, and that's the thing. I think a lot of times it is just a very quick, easy fix in the writing.
Yeah.
That would alleviate some issues.
Well, it's that thing that they do in like big budget movies. I always notice it the most when I rewatch Beverly Hills Cop is when you have scenes where actors are talking, but they're not on camera, and you realize like, oh, that's dialogue. Those are just like, these are establishing shots, and they didn't want there to be a gap there, so they wrote some quick dialogue to fill that in. And it's when when Eddie Murphy gets arrested after being thrown out of the window, and the cop car's pulling up, and he says, "Officers, if we see any movie stars, can you point them out to me? Because I've never seen no shit like that." And it's clearly like Eddie Murphy is reading that in a studio 6 months after they shot the movie, but it still works because it's just funny, but that goes along with what you're saying about like throwing that extra line,
Right. Yeah, sometimes it's just one or two extra lines that can fill a gap.
I will tell you one thing I did like about this. The exterior location work. I thought this was a good example of how you can shoot somewhere that is not New York or Los Angeles or Toronto or Atlanta, and it can be its own. Like, you can tell this is the South. It's probably Louisiana,
It is.
And it is Louisiana.
Oh,
it is. See,
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, she's from there, and the director lives there. Yeah.
Perfect. And it just like, it looks like there. Hey, good job. You shot in Louisiana, and it looks like Louisiana.
No, but I know that like kind of sounds snarky, but I know what you mean, because sometimes when you do location scouting, sometimes you like, I don't know, sometimes they pick places and it's like, you clearly are not from here. You clearly, like, why did you pick those places? So no, I know what you mean. And good choices. Yes.
And if you watch like movies, specifically comedies made in the 80s, you can just tell you can even tell like, this one's Vancouver, this one's Toronto, but they're pretending to be New York. I appreciate now that the way things have gone, that lots of movies are now set in the places they're filmed.
Yes,
like we see, there's a lot of movies that are shot in Georgia where they don't take place in Georgia, but there are lots of movies just take place in Toronto now,
Yeah.
Like, why not,
Yeah.
So
totally.
Annie Spray, I think that I have spoken quite enough about Days of Daisy. Got me yapping and I just couldn't stop. That's one of my particular set of skills, I guess. So that reminds me, I need to see Barbarian. You both have seen it, right?
Yes.
Because you both sort of just like mention it occasionally, and I'm just like, I gotta fucking see that so I know what the hell you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I think, Megan, you said it's like really, is it really gruesome? Or am I thinking of something different?
There's some gory parts.
Yeah, there's some gory, grossy kind of stuff about it. For me, it fits into a fun little subgenre of movies where Justin Long plays the bad guy thinking he's the good guy. Barbarian, I also recommend House of Darkness specifically for him playing that kind of guy who thinks he's the good guy but is actually the bad guy. And then, of course, Drag Me to Hell.
Right. Is he the bad guy in that? I don't remember his character.
He's not a good guy in that.
He's not a good guy.
Oh, man, I haven't seen that in so long. I don't remember. I just remember her being dragged to hell. The poor thing. Yeah. By the way, this is a story for off mic, so forget it. So, okay. Are there any final thoughts on Days of Daisy, which I keep wanting to call Days of Thunder or Daisy of Thunder? That would be the best title.
I keep wanting to call it the Good Daisy for some weirdo reason.
Daisy.
That works too.
Does it? I don't know.
Oh, wow.
I want to call it everything but its actual title for some bizarre reason.
Well, it's it's kind of a strange title.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, I will say.
Like,
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's one of those titles where it's like, well, how can you name a movie, and have it be representative of what the movie is? Like the basketball movie that I just watched that we'll be talking about another time, Shooting Stars. It's a basketball movie. These guys are stars. They were on a team called the Shooting Stars. It's called Shooting Stars. Bad Teacher's about a bad teacher. Like Aliens is about aliens. So, but Days of Daisy, what does that really mean? I don't know.
I don't know.
Following her days, I guess. I don't know.
My days are filled with Daisy. Well, okay. Let's recap, shall we? Megan.
Yes.
The live action The Little Mermaid.
Yeah. I would say it's worth seeing for Halle Bailey's performance. But if you wait on it, it's fine. You don't need to rush out.
They can, if they have Disney Plus, it's okay to wait.
Yeah. Although, I don't know. The representation, maybe you should just go and see it. But yes.
Okay.
But if you're just talking about should you rush out because it's the most amazing thing? No, you can wait till it's on Disney Plus.
Got it.
But Halle Bailey, excellent. Oh, sorry. I'm still thinking about Halle Bailey and her great performance. She's so good.
Okay. Influencer. Megan, go.
Yes.
Evan, go.
Yes.
A qualified yes from me, pending the last 30 minutes. And then Days of Daisy. I will be. Let's hear it, gang.
I'm gonna have to say no.
Okay. And I'm gonna go with probably not, but your mileage may vary. So there it is. There it is. I'm coming down on the coward side, basically.
Oh, ouch.
Pick a side, Dave.
I know. Get off the fence, God damn it. Well, anyway, that's Spoiler Piece Theater. That was this week's show. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to do a couple of things. First, we want to thank our sponsor piece patron, Heather Sachs. Thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
We also want to thank our wonderful editor, Otto Klammer. Thank you, Otto, for all of your hard work.
Thanks Otto.
They usually say that you make us sound great every week, which you do, but I forgot to say that, so I'm saying it now. You can find Spoiler Piece Theater anywhere you find podcasts. You can follow us on our website, spoilerpiece.com. If you want to follow us on social media, we're Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook, and we're at Spoiler Piece on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. You can email us, spoilerpiece@gmail.com. Please let us know what you thought of Days of Daisy or anything else we watched this week. Or you can give us a call
at 862-21-PEACE.
And say, Dave, here's an example of bad sound design, and then just make weird noises into your voicemail and be like, the sound design in Days of Daisy, a movie that I saw, thank you very much, is much better than how you described it. F you. Don't leave that message, please. But leave other messages.
But if you do leave that message, I may never stop laughing.
That would be amazing. You transcribe what I just said and you read it into the voicemail. If you like Spoiler Piece Theater, please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece, or you can rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That really helps us out a lot. And if you really like the show, please consider joining our Patreon. As I mentioned several times throughout this episode, we watched Searching, the 2018 thriller starring John Cho and Deborah Messing. We had a really fun conversation about that over on Ye Old Patreon. For a mere $5 a month, you can get access to a bajillion, which is an unknown quantity, but a bajillion bonus episodes, and you can take part in our polls. Searching was the winner of our poll this month, so hey, it was a good time had by all. So that, like we said, is it for Spoiler Piece Theater. My name is Dave Riedel. I write for the Chicago Reader. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and if you'd like to follow me on social media, I'm at Dave Sees Movies on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd.
My name is Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
And my name is Megan Kearns. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I too am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I'm a member of Gallica. You can follow me on Twitter at OpinionS World or on Instagram and Letterboxd at The OpinionS.
And we will see you next week, gang. Bye.
Bye.